Three, two. Hey, everybody! Welcome back to Dissecting Shakespeare, aka Dissecting King Lear, where we talk about William Shakespeare's King Lear. We do it scene by scene, where we act out the scene with some uh, actors from all over the world, and then we talk about the scene and dissect it for you so you can get what's happening. And this is the last scene. Today we're doing the last scene from Act 1. Act 1, Scene 5. Um, and today I'm Jackie, your host, as usual, from Washington, D.C. And I have three lovely actors with me. I'm going to pass it on to Haley.
My name is Haley Bayermeister. I reside in Houston, Texas, and I will be reading for the fool. And I will pass it to I'll pass it to Miranda.
And I'm Miranda, and I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'll be reading A Gentleman. And over to you, Henry.
So that leaves me, and I'm Henry, and I'm in Venice, Los Angeles, California, and I demanded to do this scene because I have a take on it which I think Jackie may not agree with. So let's see.
I love it when we don't agree. I love it when we don't agree. Alrighty. We're going to first start with acting out the scene. So we will start in a minute. Act 1, Scene 5, Court before the Same. And the same is the Duke of Albany's castle. Enter King Lear, Kent, and Fool.
Go you before to Gloucester with these letters. Acquaint my daughter no further with anything you know than comes from her demand out of the letter. If your diligence be not speedy, I shall be there for you.
I will not sleep, my lord, till I have delivered your letter.
If a man's brains, for instance, weren't not in danger of pipes,
Aye, boy.
then I prithee, be merry. Thy wit shall ne'er go slipshod.
Ha, ha, ha.
Shalt see thy other daughter will use thee kindly. For though she's as like this as a crab's like an apple, yet I can tell what I can tell.
What canst tell, boy?
She will taste as like this as a crab does to a crab. Thou canst tell why one's nose stands in the middle of one's face.
No?
Why? To keep one's eyes of either side's nose. That what a man cannot smell out, he may spy into.
I did her wrong.
Canst tell how an oyster makes his shell?
No.
Nor I neither. But I can tell why a snail has a house.
Why?
Why? To put his head in it. Not to give away it away to his daughters, and leave his horns without a case.
I will forget my nature. So kind a father. Be my horses ready?
Thy asses are gone about him. The reason why the 7 stars are no more than 7 is a pretty reason.
Because they are not 8.
Yes, indeed. Thou wouldst make a good fool.
To take it again perforce. Monster ingratitude.
If thou wert my fool, uncle, I'd have beaten thee for being old before thy time.
How's that?
Thou shouldst not have told till thou hadst been wise.
Oh, let me not be mad. Not mad, sweet heaven. Keep me in temper, I would not be mad.
Enter, gentlemen.
How now, are the horses ready?
Ready, my lord.
Come, boy.
She that's a maid now, and laughs at my departure, shall not be a maid long, unless things be cut shorter.
Exeunt all. Alrighty. And that was a short but sweet one. That was the end of Act 1, Scene 5. And now we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. It's a short scene, but the way you played it, Henry, was very beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
I think if you watch our first, the scene before this, Act 1, Scene 4, and then you watch this one, I think your interpretation made sense with my interpretation as King Lear. And I don't see a departure from our interpretations whatsoever. In fact, it makes a lot of sense, right? After all the emotions that happen in Act 1, Scene 4, guess what's the chief emotion here? It's that of regret.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And also a realization, as I said before, that he made a terrible mistake, and he made a mistake about all his daughters, in fact, because he didn't realize the other two were against him, and he didn't realize that she was uh, completely honest and straightforward and on his side and loved him. And to me, that's the kind of crux moment of him when he just gets with clarity what he's done, and then I think then that starts driving him mad um, because he's interacting from a different point. I mean, he gets it because the scene before was what was that scene or what was that all about? They my daughters were never like that kind of thing, and then it's oh
Yeah.
oh I must be going mad, and then he does
Mm-hmm.
kind of, but
And so the her of I did her wrong, for me, it's both Cordelia and Goneril.
sure, okay, absolutely. I mean, I hadn't thought of that before, but as you're saying it, yeah,
No, because yeah, I think both. Like Cordelia obviously did her wrong. You really did her wrong. But Goneril too, in the sense of like in the previous scene, the way I played King Lear at least, I flew into a rage. Like as
yeah,
soon as Goneril stopped talking, I was like, "Who are you? Who am
yeah,
I? Who do you think I am?" Like
yeah, yeah. Because
lose my
he's
mind.
he's still reacting the old way he used to,
Hmm.
which is if anybody crossed him, well, people didn't cross him, and so I think you know that scene. He's being kind of crossed for the first time in many ways, and everything's fallen apart because he's done something. What has he done?
Yeah.
And then this is, I think, this beautifully quiet scene where it happens, and then it comes back out again and starts getting, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Yep.
fool is such an important part of this.
Yeah. I think like the analogies that are, that he's using, I guess,
Hmm.
are also kind of speaking like, in a sense, encouraging him to go speak to Regan. But like what he's kind of saying is that she is, a little bit more, could be possibly more understanding for sure, because she, I think he like actually puts down her intelligence by saying she's like a crab, like an apple, like, yet I can tell what I tell. Like she will use thee kindly. But at the same time, like the fool's reminding him why to keep one's eyes on each other, on one side, like be actualizing that this could possibly go wrong, but it could go well. And that, also like the oyster makes a shell, but then like I can tell why a snail has a house. That is almost trying to get him to feel a bit positive about going to, although he's warning him that this is bad. Of course, the fool is always doing that, like separating the houses and seeing the daughters. But I think that it's the fool's kind of reminding him that there's a possibility that it could go well because you gave her this house, and from the get-go, you were her father, and just don't put a head in it, not to give away anything, and leave horns without a case, kind of idea. I think that kind of means like be strict with what you say if you must go see her, right? I don't know.
No, it's interesting too, like so much of it in this scene seemed to me about like see the obvious, right?
Yeah.
Like what are your eyes for so that you can see things? What's right, like why are seven stars more than seven? Because they're not eight, right?
Right.
The your other daughter is like as like this as a crab is to a crab.
Mhm.
Um that it's this sort of everything that's been right in front of his face in terms of who loves him and who doesn't, that he's been refusing to see because of his pride,
Yes.
right? Um, Suddenly it's because I think that's part of what's interesting is that it's not that he couldn't have seen through Reagan and Goneril and I mean, it's not that because I feel like that's what's so interesting about this scene, right? It's not that they were super clever and tricked him, right? It's that he wanted things out of Cordelia and he was unwilling to go the extra mile to see things from her perspective.
Yeah.
And now, yeah, I'd never like I love the way you're saying that line that I did a wrong line. That's it's just this moment where he's realizing the thing he should have known all along. That's just very simple. That he wasn't fair to her.
Hmm.
Yes,
With
I
that.
imagine walking through the castle, getting ready to depart, and actually feeling like that didn't go well. Why? And especially how you read it, Henry. It was heartfelt and in a way that I liked a lot.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because Lear needs some humanity in all of this. I don't think he's always up here and going, there's levels.
Yeah. No, for sure. And for me, I love how the fool, well, the fool is always the one being like, let's keep it on the real. Like, yeah, sure, maybe Regan would be better, but nah, she ain't
Probably
too
not.
far from Gonril. If Gonril be treating you this way, Regan's gonna treat you the same way, sir. So be prepared, be prepared. And
I
the I just I always am like the fool has such bars, yo, such bars. Like you go so hard on Lear. I'm always surprised Lear doesn't like backhand you sometimes. And like you say such incredible wisdom. Like for me, I love when you were like, if thou wert my full nuncle, I'd have thee beaten for being old before thy time. Oh, burn! And like, thou shouldst not have been old till thou hadst been wise. Ouch! Like, get to wisdom first, bitch, before you get beep, before you become old. Like,
I yeah,
it's
an audience member would be like, "How is that fool like able to say this?" But it makes sense later. Like it's literally his possibly like his only comrade, genuinely near the ends of Fool's kind of. Sorry, I don't think this is spoiling anything, but everybody knows like the Fool just disappears randomly at the.
well, we'll talk about that when we get there, but
Okay.
not.
I have so many theories on that, right? And that'll be fun. But it's definitely like, yes, like it's tit for tat. Like it's like a mix. The fool gives him advice, but also brings him down a lot of notches when he feels like he needs to. And I know if anybody walked into King Lear knowing nothing, I think the fool is a very compelling character because it's like, whoa, that guy can talk to him like that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. but
Yeah,
that's
very,
a thought, like you said, yeah.
very real.
Hmm.
The fool is so real.
Yes. With the coolest, yeah, just
I love
rhyme.
it.
You
Like,
know, also not spoilers, but I was reading something about some of the stories this was based on.
Uh-huh.
And so because there was actually a 1594 version of Lear
Mm,
um, by somebody other than Shakespeare, and also like there was a version of it in Holinshed. There was a version of it in the Mirror for Magistrates, which was like a mid 1500s book of poetry. So like, and in all of those versions,
yeah.
Lear is you know, Lear makes the same mistake with the daughters.
Mm,
He's humbled. And in the end of all of those versions, he goes to Cordelia. She wins him the kingdom back, and having learned his lesson, he rules wisely until he dies.
mm,
Um, so I think that's interesting that if you were seeing this play back then,
yeah.
that would be where you were expecting this. That's how you would expect his arc to go. You would
right.
expect this to be the sort of here's the low point, right? It could maybe get a bit lower.
Mm,
And then ultimately he learns a valuable lesson and he comes back to be an older and wiser king.
Like a morality story or
it
again.
is. In fact,
Yeah.
one of my Indian friends told me that they have the same story
Oh,
that's based
interesting.
off of Lear in
Uh-huh.
Indian lore, and it's
Mm.
similar as well.
Interesting.
So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, the Fool is just full of double entendres to like make points. I think that's super interesting. But yeah, that the idea that it could be a more morality or a fable story is super interesting. But I get how Shakespeare made it the way he did it because he loves it to end on like wondering if maybe that even happens. But of course, we know what happens in the end. Once again, I'm not going to give you spoilers. No, my bad. I was close to it. This
Excellent.
novel short is really, really rich and important, and especially kind of to establish. I think this is although the scene before establishes enough of the relationship between the Fool and King Lear. I think since they're since they're by themselves, there's nobody listening on. I think it's a very, very important and like pivotal scene to have at least as a transition towards into visiting the second sister Reagan, however you want to say it. Yeah,
No,
Yeah, it's been
yeah,
said both ways. Hmm.
yeah. Okay.
no.
But it's definitely a transitional scene, but an important one. Yeah,
Hmm.
to further establish their relationship, but also
Yeah.
to yeah, like it's very important for Lear because, like we said, he's leaving that conversation with Goneril, um, kind of perplexed and because I really don't think Lear means to be some. I mean, he makes the decision to split up his house, like to split his crown between his daughter. Like, so he has some sort of like he thinks that they can do this. He's just confused as to why he did it after he did it because he's very spontaneous and that's just like the character, right? But yeah, in this moment, I really do think he's starting to feel the effects of what he's done in multiple ways. Like it's not just oh crap, like I shouldn't have done this. Screw my daughter. More like, am I messing up my relationships with them? I think this is a moment where he's realizing like this is harder than I thought on me, yes, but on my I think he's very self-centered a tad, so he is also thinking like I am I hurting my children doing this a
Yeah,
little
it makes you. Sorry, what
Yeah.
were you gonna say?
No,
so
No, I was just
I,
gonna say it makes me wonder if the daughters had ever treated him like this before. Like, had he ever seen signs of their disrespect and their the way they think of him before this? And
mhm.
I would assume probably not.
No, I would think they would be very careful not to let the. I mean, I'm sure it was there an undercurrent which he wouldn't recognise, but they would be trying to um, protect against it, wouldn't they?
Right.
get him knowing. But it seemed to me that the reason he gave up the crown was he wanted just to kind of go off with his lads and go hunting and not have any responsibilities and all that sort of stuff, which is what he does. And then, uh, it's like he's told he can't do that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
How long
And
do you think Lear was king? Sorry, this is like a Haley question, but
yeah,
before this play starts, how long has he been a reigning king? Like since
a
his
long
20,
time, probably
long
a
time.
very long time,
he was a
is what
boy?
I would assume. He's been king
Okay.
for a long, long time.
While he had daughters, I mean, I think his daughters have always been, he was always in power while they've been alive.
Yeah.
Oh,
It feels like, doesn't it?
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. And so that's why I think for him, it's inconceivable that
Mm.
even though he low key abdicated his power, right? He gave away like the lands. He's like,
Yeah.
but I'm still king, but I'm still alive. So there's still respect and honor and all of the things, the ways that you treated me when I was active king need to be the same as when I'm passive king. You know?
This chunk of
Especially if they're telling him he can't do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only reason he resigned.
Hmm. Exactly. It was so that he could do whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that
Hmm.
there.
without any of the problems of being in power.
Yes. I also love how this play is a great, great example of how we treat our old in the US, in North America especially. We treat our old like garbage in the United States of America. We do not respect our old. We do not take care of our old. We do not, and I'm grossly generalizing, of course, but as a general view, as a majority view of this country, this is how I see we treat our old. And I see it
Mhm.
everywhere. You know, discard them when they're too old. Oh, you're not smart enough to work anymore, or you're not strong enough to help anymore, or you're not, here enough to make decisions anymore, or you're not. All of these things we do and we say and we treat our old. It's very, very sad.
Is like the
Very
scamming,
sad.
like hackers will actually pick out elderly people to scam because they're not
Yeah.
with the technology.
Mhm.
That's disgusting. What
Yeah.
the yeah. So
Yeah.
I
Do
point
you think
and
it's actually true of the kind of more the more what I'd call rural areas and the more kind of out of the way places where where maybe the older people are there's more of that old hierarchy thing.
Hmm. For sure. That's the beauty of the US. It's such a huge nation that there are different cultures and there
Mm.
are different traditions and different ways that people treat, different parts of the society. But as a
Mm.
whole, think about the what in my family, I'm from Senegal originally. And when I go see my family in Senegal and in France, they're in their minds, their thought and belief is that when my dad and becomes too old, we'll put him in a nursing home because that's what the the US has taught the world is that that's what we do to our olds. When they're too old and we don't want to take care of them, we send them to a nursing home. They don't stay with us. What? Like, no. Whereas in Senegal that and in France, like that is absolutely not the case. Like especially in Senegal, like the old parents stay with their children. Like that is inconceivable that they would stay with any place else other than with their own family. And if they can't stay with their children, then they stay with their siblings or with their cousins or with with somebody who's in the family for them to
Mm.
take care of them
Mm.
and to spend time with them.
Yeah. No, and I think this is, I mean, part of the thing that I think is interesting too about this is because that is this kind of story, right? Is that he's expecting to stay with them,
Yeah.
right? And when you've got that of the people who are all staying together, then when you've got close relationships, it's great,
Yeah.
right? But when you've got as in this play, right, like these sort of power struggles, then it becomes this real question of autonomy
Mhm.
because he wants to keep his autonomy
Yeah.
very sympathetic thing to want, right? Um, I mean, it makes me think of the sort of cliche of like, I think this is actually in a Shakespeare line somewhere, like that old men are second children, the notion
Mm,
of second childhood, right? That as we get older, there's a way in which, we become weaker, we become more vulnerable, we become more dependent on others,
mhm.
and that goes with a loss of autonomy and a loss of strength
Yeah.
and a vulnerability. Um, in the same way that, I mean, his daughters really have sort of ended up in the position of quote unquote mothers to him, in
Hmm.
that they have the power and he doesn't. And his daughter is treating him as if he's the kid and she's his mom and she can just tell him what to do,
Yes.
right? Um,
Gotcha.
and that's a lot to take
Hmm.
after decades of being an autonomous person who gets to manage your own life.
Yeah.
It almost makes me want to not keep the rhetoric of King Lear goes mad. It's like no, it's hurtful. A lot of what happens to him is pretty darn hurtful. Um, yeah, really great points. I think Henry and of course Jackie but Miranda, what you just said is very, very.
Yeah.
Never thought of really that much about Lear's being the aging of it all. Yeah, I mean, if I ever see a Lear that's like in his 20s, I'd be like, this doesn't make sense. And I've always thought that, but that was cool to break that down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
this is why I love so much this series of dissecting Shakespeare and talking with y'all, about it because it really makes us think. Some things that I have thought about for whenever I've read this or done this, and some things that I've never thought about that you all bring up that I'm like, yes, what a perspective.
Yeah.
Ah,
totally.
Cool.
I agree. This is so much fun for them.
I love it. Yeah.
yeah. It's also another reason why I love watching Shakespeare in other cultures because they key in on parts of these stories that, we don't always see in North America, right? When I see an interpretation in the US or in Canada, sometimes it's a very different interpretation than one I saw when I was in Japan or one that I saw in South Africa or one that I saw, in Kenya where I was like, what? I've never thought about these people that way.
There's so many ways to play either sister and just moments of frustration where they're mean and then being like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, but dad, I really just feel like, yeah, like, and a lot of, yeah, I feel like Western culture adaptations, I would say a lot of it's like, you're old, you suck and stuff. And it's like, what? Wait, there's so many different diverse cultures that would never talk to their dad like that. Like, the text can still be the same, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
he
love,
would be like, I'm so sorry, Dad, but like,
yeah.
you know, but like it's a lot and I can't handle this anymore. You just need to leave, Dad. Like there's just too many people. There's too
We're
many
like,
people.
that anger where you go, oh my God, I didn't say that. You know what I mean? Like, instead of like, I'm gonna be sneaky and snide about this as Goneril or Reagan, It's so yeah, it can and I guess this harks back to us talking about how the sisters don't have to be played like witches, like act like beeholes, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't have to be that. There's so much more complexity in their characters as well. Yeah.
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 And I think that's why so many of us are happy to read and to interpret these plays again and again and again and again, right? Because you can do it in so many different ways. Like I think live, I've done The Tempest 3 times live, Much Ado About Nothing 6 times live. 6 times, y'all. And like I've played different roles, right? I was bottom 3 times, Helena, and then recently I'm like forgetting, but I was flute, and you know, and Thisbe, and I've also played one other thing, and I'm like, who else did I play in Midsummer? But just to say, and I never got bored of it. Like even this past summer, doing it again for the fourth summer in a row, I wasn't bored with it because there's so many ways to interpret every role, and it's so fun to make those discoveries. We love you, Shakespeare. As we love all playwrights alive as well.
No, only Shakespeare. I only do Shakespeare.
I only love Shakespeare. No, we are not. We are not classicists over here. We're not purists over here. We're just lovers of stories. We love good stories. Well, thank you, Henry, Haley, and Miranda. Any last thoughts before we say goodbye and good night to our audience?
No, just love playing with the scene again. It's one of my favourite scenes in Shakespeare, actually.
Mhm.
Even though it seems so simple, and it's great doing it again and getting some other more insights into it as every time.
Hmm.
So fun. Always.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Haley, are you saying anything?
Yeah, I'm like so quiet.
I know you're like, maybe I'll say something.
No, I was just agreeing with Henry. This is so much fun in the sense that it unpacked so many different things that you don't think about. Like everybody's been saying, and thank you, Jackie. This is always fun.
Thank you, Jackie.
Anytime, friends. Thank y'all for playing with me. And please tune in for We're Done Act 1! What? And finally moving to Act 2 of King Lear. I never knew we would, get through this, but we are going to get through this whole play and move on through another play next. If y'all have any suggestions on which play you would like us to do next, please let us know in the comments below. If not, we'll choose one, no worries. But don't forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share this video with the world! I know I never do this, but I really should do this at the end of every video. Thank y'all, and see you at the next Dissecting Shakespeare, aka Dissecting King Lear. Bye! Au revoir!
Au revoir.